Are you serious? Are you serious? Russia's ambassador to Sweden just threatened war if Sweden joins NATO. Russia's ambassador to Sweden has warned the country of the potential military consequences associated with joining NATO in an interview with a Swedish newspaper. The Russian ambassador, Viktor Tartarinturov, told the Sweden newspaper that Russia does not have any military plans against Sweden in line with Stockholm's alliance of neutrality. So if Sweden decides to be neutral, Russia has no plans of any military intervention. But the ambassador, he warned that this could change if Sweden were to join the NATO alliance. I don't think it will become relevant in the near future, he said, even though there have been a certain swing in public opinion. But if it happens, there will be a countermeasure. According to the Russian ambassador, now Vladimir Putin pointed out that there will be consequences, that Russia will have to resort to a response of the military kind and reorient our troops and missiles. According to the ambassador, the country that joins NATO needs to be aware of the risk it is exposing itself to. Now, currently, Sweden does not have any plans to join NATO. The country has stayed out of the competing alliances between the West and Russia since World War II. But, however, public support for NATO membership is quickly rising. Back in October of 2014, there was a poll showed 37% of the Swedes were in favor of joining NATO, and 36% of the Swedes were against it. So there's been what you have here, folks, is you have nations in Europe who are saying, we really don't want to be under the thumb of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, Russia. We really don't, and I can understand why. When someone militarily threatens you for a sovereign nation for making its own decision, and it's not a decision to go to war with somebody, it's a decision to join another group, to be a part of another alliance. There's so many economic advantages. There is so many different reasons that it makes sense for Sweden. But with these kinds of threats, you can believe that Sweden won't move. And that's exactly what Putin knows will happen. That's why he's having his ambassadors threaten Sweden to keep them in line. And it's also sending a message to all the rest of the nations that are in the European Union or neutral or in and around, or former states like the 3 Baltic states that were part of the old Soviet Union. I mean, if this is a threat, you have to understand, Vladimir Putin is KGB. I mean, you can take Putin out of the KGB, but you can't take the KGB out of Putin. Boot scooting Putin. He will not just let everybody do their own thing. Now, I'm not throwing off on him. I understand he's trying to actually keep his portion, his part of the world secured for the protection and defense of his own nation. So I understand that totally. I really do. But don't cross him. Do not cross him. And because here's a couple things that people don't like to talk about. He has locked arms with the Chinese, and he has locked arms with the Iranians. And this gives him a very, very strong alliances in the Middle East and in the Asian world. And you have to understand that's huge. Especially continue to keep an eye on September and October when we're talking about a potential major economic announcement. I believe the Bilderberg meetings, that something was decided. It may be to leave the U.S. currency as the reserve standard for the world. It may mean to take it from the U.S. dollar and give the reserve standard to China, of which Russia would benefit greatly, and so would Iran and other nations, because they could actually join in a Chinese market. There could even possibly be a new world currency that would be coming forth soon. Because I can tell you the mark of the beast technology system is definitely advanced, way beyond what you and I are even comprehending. And that's based on reports I've received by talking to people that work in the federal government that know, high up that know. And that was an individual I met just a couple weeks ago. We're running out of time, folks. And what I mean by that is you're living in the last days. It's a very serious situation now when a nation as big, a superpower like Russia, can just turn and just look at Sweden and say, you better not make a decision to join any alliances or we will send in the troops. I mean, that kind of a threat, folks, is just, it shows you how barbaric we still are as a world people. We're in the last days. Give your life to Jesus Christ. I'm serious when I say this. Give your life to Christ. In other words, be born again. And call on the name of the Lord. Come to my live broadcast today at 12 noon Eastern, and we'll help you. I always give an altar call, and I always pray with people to be saved. And I want you to come in Jesus' name.